to lead in authenticity, they're willing to say, I don't know the answer, but I can empower somebody to go find the answer. Yeah, they don't have to be in the limelight. They don't have to be up front all the time.
Welcome to the Crucible Project Podcast. The Crucible Project is a nonprofit organization committed to creating a world of men and women who live with integrity, grace, and courage, helping them to fulfill their God-given purpose. This podcast will discuss important and sometimes difficult topics while delivering practical life applications with men and women who are currently practicing this work. We are igniting Christ-like change in men and women through experiences of radical honesty and grace.
Welcome back to the Crucible Project Podcast, and this one is Real Christian Men Series Podcast. And I'm your host today, Roy Wooten, and I'm sitting in with Byron Myers, Men's Ministry Director at the Crucible Project. Welcome, Byron.
Hey, good to be with you again.
We were kind of commiserating before how both of us are a little tired. We're recording this on a Monday, and we both came off of different men's retreats, and so a lot of energy.
Exactly. Yeah. And up early to do some other things. So it's been, but it's good. We're glad to be here.
Yeah. Glad to be doing this with you. I thought we'd talk today about, successful Christian men. I run across many who they seem to be doing really well in their life in a lot of different areas. They're financially doing well. Their wife adores them. The kids are connected to them. And yet in some area, some place in their life, things just aren't working right. Might be having doubts in their relationship with God, or they're struggling with something around purpose or, something.
Yeah, exactly. I actually recall going on our initial weekend, right? The first time I went, and our founder had led that retreat. And remember in the last meeting, he talked about what drew him to this work himself. And that's, he had been doing everything right. He had all these things in place, but yet there still felt like cracks in his basement. Oh, yeah, I recognize that. That's the way I was feeling. I think I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing, but yet something still seems to be missing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they're faithful in church, they're responsible at work, they're providing for the family, they're leading others, and yet they still feel stalled or restless, or, some hole is somewhere in their life. I've been there. I have felt that before.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Prayers feel flat. Success doesn't satisfy. And it can feel like somewhere, like maybe I'm not being the man that I really ought to be, or that I'm called to be. Or it can even feel like failure.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But I also think it's more like a signal. And so I thought we'd talk about this today. It points to something. Byron, when you sit with men who are leading well, what do you hear beneath the surface?
Yeah, I hear sometimes they're repeating how they're doing well. Right? It's like they're convincing themselves. And underneath the surface, there just seems to be this hesitancy. Yeah, I think I'm doing okay, but I could be better. Or, sometimes I hear underneath the busy. I'm just so busy in the midst of all of this. I've said yes to too many things. Yeah, under the surface, there's just a hint. It's not that they're trying to fake it. It's not that they are, trying to pull wool over my eyes. It's more of, there's something just not fully satisfying.
And I think, in most circumstances, it's like, it can also be like what I'm trying to say, like a striving and almost exhaustion from striving in some way, It's like, maybe that's why they look so good. It's because they're getting a lot done.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not from a place of joy. It's not from a good place. It's like a striving from a little boy need, right? Something inside of them that's really just pushing them.
Yeah, and then in that little boy space, they were taught duty. They were taught, I somebody's relying on me. I have a duty, and I must finish that. Yeah.
You were talking about our founder's time at his weekend. My initial weekend in January 2009 didn't have clarity about why I was coming. I mean, I had told the guy, I want a better health. They gave us some homework, and I believe we're still doing this. But they gave us some homework and asked me to ask some questions of some of the people in my life, and so they had given me some feedback of how I don't take care of myself, how I'm always like working, et cetera. And it was it was a surprise to me on Friday night as God started dealing with me, showing me some things about how I had some patterns in my life that go back all the way, really all the way to like 5.
Yeah.
And it was a real surprise. I think that many of the men and that come to our men's retreats, that's the aha for them, that this is a current challenge or this feeling of unease or, this place where I feel stuck in my life or I'm not feeling fully fulfilled is tied to other stuff and not really what's in front of me right now.
Exactly. I remember going on mine and feeling very similar to you. I really wasn't sure. I mean, I knew I wanted a challenge. I knew I wanted to be around men. I knew I was needing something. Even the night before, I was just feeling uneasy. Not that I wouldn't go, but it's like, I think I'm going to have to face something. I have no idea what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And I end up finding for mine, I was lacking joy, and I was sitting in a place of a lot of criticism of people and struggling with joy. And yeah, the surprise was I didn't realize I had as many cracks as I thought I did because I thought I was heading in the right direction. I was in a Christian ministry even then, doing all the right things. But I hear another surprise that men find. Some of them say, hey, I was in a pretty good place. I'm in a pretty good place. And I just want to go learn something about leadership, or I want to learn, find a brotherhood. And they get there and go, oh, wow, crud, I've been playing at life in a crazy way. And I've been doing it because I got taught it young. I got taught really young. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm pushing string or I'm not feeling real. And I didn't notice that before. Right. So, yeah.
Sometimes when we feel stuck in some area, that highlight comes to us. It can feel like maybe there's something sinful going on. We've lost something about our faith, or that we just need to try harder. That was my go-to strategy. I'm just going to work harder, try harder, but more likely it means some other thing. Like one of the things is that I find is that sometimes it means that my outer world has matured so much faster than what's between my ears. My inner world is lagging behind in maturity of the kind of man that I can be. And I got promoted quickly. My career took off. The business took off. Something happened that was good, but my inner world was still kind of back at an earlier version of myself.
Oh, yeah.
Do you find that too?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. In fact, because you and I have been doing this so long, I can tie it back to something childhoodish, right? Yeah. I even wonder when Paul talked in 1 Corinthians 13, he said, I put away childish things. And I've wondered, that's less about driving the bicycle off the roof at 50 years old, but more of a maturity of, I need to quit living my life as if I'm that person, that young child, right? Reacting to things as that person rather than the adult whose soul is intact and what people are saying doesn't really touch that part of me. All right. And I think, like you said, we get stuck there and we don't know it. And there's not a sin in it. Now, we might do some sinful things out of it, but there is not a sin. Sometimes it's just, wow, I thought I'd grown up because I'm doing all these things, but I didn't grow up emotionally. I didn't grow up, internally.
Yeah. And there's a big gap, not only, in education and socialization, the way that boys grow up to be men, but also even in the church. I mean, I'm very thankful for the church heritage I've had and the Bible knowledge that I was able to gain. They really focused on teaching me in my formative Christian years, behavior and belief, but not any kind of emotional or relational integration. It's like, that was like, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck with that,
Exactly.
And so I may be stuck at an emotional level of a 12, not 2. Yeah. So I'm no longer a 2-year-old who has to have my way and gets offended easily or whatever, but I'm a 12-year-old who's still on an emotional roller coaster and reactive. And where can I go to get that, that next level of emotional and relational integration?
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and most men who are successful really aren't stuck because they've sinned or they're disobedient. They're stuck because they're divided between, all right, I have this adult life and I have this inner side that I haven't really looked at or taken care of. So what's the cost, Roy? What's the cost for these guys doing this? Us, right?
Well, I mean, the easiest answer is, and I see this in my work with Christian business owners, is if we're unaware of it, we end up, our flaws are always magnified in our leadership, period.
Mm-hmm.
And so we end up accidentally, unintentionally wounding people around us that are following us. And they may be key employees, right?
Yeah.
And if we don't have an approach that is not just open door, but I'm open to receiving feedback about how I'm leading, we can go unaware doing that for decades.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the things that I hear from leaders is, somebody please tell me what my blind spots are. I've had turnover in these 2 or 3 roles, it seems like every couple of years. And there's something about me and the way I'm leading that's, moving them there. If that makes sense. But inside, it feels like just something's off, right? Yeah. And I'll hear leaders say, I can't believe I just did that. That's not the kind of leader I want to be. I am so ashamed that that's what I just did, but they don't go look in the mirror long enough. And sometimes when they're talking to me in a coaching situation or they're on one of our retreats, they are finally taking a look in the mirror and looking not only at me, but beyond me into my past of what are the things that are driving the unwanted leadership habits that I have that are keeping me from being where I really want to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most of it's like how we were, how boys grew up, how our culture grows boys, right?
Yep. Yes, exactly. And I love the idea of the result is over-functioning. I am carrying a whole lot more than I should be carrying. And there's a disconnect between me and those I'm leading. In my frustration, I want to blame them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't they getting it?
Right.
So yeah, it's a tough deal for leaders to deal with that. So how about spiritual maturity and spiritual endurance? Where do you see men confusing those two?
Spiritual maturity. So we can't have relational growth, relational maturity, integration we can't have spiritual maturity without relational integration.
Yeah.
We can't have spiritual maturity without doing our relationships well. I mean, there are so many wonderful, I wouldn't call them commands. I'd call them like Paul's saying, hey, if you want to do well, do these things, love one another, forgive one another, serve one another. I mean, there are all of these things that should apply also in our homes, in how we relate to our kids and how we should relate to the most important relationships around us. And so there's this gap of relational integration of all we believe in and how we interact with others, but also this emotional immaturity has to move along for us to really have the spiritual maturity that Paul talks about in stop drinking milk, and step into the hard things, I think it's been a missing link in my experience of church over the many years is this gap that we leave off the emotional maturing and relational maturing inside of the spiritual formation process and the discipleship. And so one of the things that just really drew me to Crucible on my weekend, and one of the reasons why I told Greg Houston, the founder, that, my goodness, I want every man to experience this at some time in their life, is because it was doing some of the things that I didn't get in church.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But they were really important. I'm interested, I'm interested, Byron, in your take on what happens when men's identity is more rooted in being needed than being loved.
Man, I can speak for myself. So when I'm in that space, I'm too much. I'm too much. All right. I'm either checking in with people. Hey, am I doing okay? Is everything all right? And I'll drive them crazy with that. Or I will overdo, like I'll do somebody else's job thinking that that's going to get me some kind of notice. Or I will end up over explaining, over talking about something, just giving way too much information in the moment, because there's this feeling of if I give it all to you, then I'll receive some kind of feedback that I'm in a good space. And then when you don't need me, then I'm ready to take my toys and go home.
Mm.
It's like, well, this isn't where I belong. This isn't a space for me. And I'll just leave. And I'll usually make some kind of parting shot when leaving too, which is not good, because now I've damaged a relationship.
Well, I'm similar. I mean, I think I find myself unable to be more aware of others when I'm really focused on my own need, right? And I need this. I get real task focused because I want to accomplish something, and I don't see the person in front of me.
Yeah.
And earlier in my career, I was not as good as a leader as I am now, because I'm better at it than I've ever been, but it's a growth. The truth is that we all have inner life. Every leader has an inner life. And in there are things like what we believe about ourselves, the finger wagging negative things we say to ourselves, how we beat each other up, beat myself up, with judgment, but also some other things like our heart's desires, our challenging moments in life, the wounding places in our life that we've experienced. And even all of our emotions are in our inner world, right?
Exactly. And if we don't do anything with it, I already recognize I'm a controller, or I'm going to be angry. Yeah, I'm going to act out, or I'm going to go really, really passive. And when I do, I'm going to escape. I'm going to go to escapism. I may play solitaire on my phone, or I might go watch something on TV and not even pay attention. In fact, I may watch something on TV while I'm playing solitaire, right? And it's all a leak out of that stuff that I'm not willing to look at on the inner side, like you just talked about.
And that's the thing that trips us up in our leadership, and where our leadership flaws really are magnified because we're in a leadership position. And so, it doesn't just go away, or it's not like it may be hidden from us temporarily, but it'll pop. Right?
Exactly.
And that's
come back.
Getting alone with God to really, look at those things. As David said, search me, oh God, search my inner life.
Yeah.
And being able to be led by some others. We've talked about this before, for so many years. I mean, in every room I was in, I was always the leader every time.
Yeah.
If I wasn't on paper, I would be pretty soon, in the interactions. But to go and not be in the lead, but to be led through some processes that help me and God look at those things, and then to be able to do something about it.
Absolutely. Words enough don't do it. Yeah, I was leading a class at my church today, and I told them, I said, my words cannot change you. We learned that from one of our mentors, John Casey, but my words can't change you. You have to put yourself in these situations to look at it and get reflection, experientially. It has to happen experientially. The words can stir, the Holy Spirit can stir, but you still have to do something. And doing something is the key, moving towards. But I want to be careful because, we just talked earlier about do, I want to take on so much. That's not the do that you and I are talking about. Is I have to go get in a place where I'm being reflected back to with another man, a wiser person. I need to step into maybe some weird stuff that I had never tried before, like role playing and, just something that becomes experiential. And all of a sudden it dislodges that barrier that's between me and what I'm not looking at in my inner world.
Right. And challenge. That was the thing there was an adventure part of my initial weekend that kind of had me smirk a little bit, but also was like, all right, let's go, man. And it was very that is the place when we're uncomfortable is where God really starts changing us, right? It doesn't happen in our comfortableness. And so the fact that God's using Crucible to help men go from like being afraid to lose control, or maybe even not even having language for emotions. It's interesting. A psychologist has termed the phrase normative alexithymia for men. Normative alexithymia. Normative means almost everybody, almost all men. And alexithymia is the word that means I don't have words for my emotions, right?
Wow.
We don't have a glossary for it. We don't know how to say it to somebody else. And just creating safety so that men can be courageous to really look at themselves with God and then to share it with a man in a small circle.
Yeah.
Like, that's the powerful tool that God's using Crucible to transform leaders with.
Exactly. Yeah. You and I mean, we're preaching to the choir with each other here, but we believe so strongly in it. And it allows these men to actually address it because they avoid addressing it.
Right.
Men avoid addressing this thing. There's a fear, there's a lack of control, there's vulnerability, which I get it, where vulnerability doesn't feel safe. Talking with men again this morning, and one of them said, I know I need to learn to trust, but it's just so hard. And I said, yeah, in childhood, you got that trust broken probably on the playground. And he said, within 5 years ago, I got that trust broken, right? It's that vulnerability is so tough to step into because we're like that rat running through the maze, that you're not sure if you're going to get cheese or water in the face, and it's tough. So we resist.
Yeah. But real Christian manhood isn't being stoic. It's not being disconnected from our emotions. Even the men who claim they don't have any emotions, they're just lying. They just trying to control them. And I guarantee you anything we're trying to control is going to pop. It's not self-reliance. Real Christian manhood is not self-reliance. It is connection. Yes, I have to step into my power and do stuff. And I can do a lot in my leadership, et cetera, but it's doing life with the way that God asked us to do life with others, right?
Yeah.
And relying on God and having a place to help. And it's not being morally perfect, because that doesn't exist either, right? But it is like strength with self-awareness, power submitted to love, courage to tell the truth. And when men integrate, what happens?
Yeah, exactly. Well, when they do, people respond. They feel more joy themselves. It's like I said earlier, there is something about somebody could come back at them with what seems to be criticism, but it doesn't touch their soul. They don't react. It's like, oh, yeah, I recognize this. There may be something I need to be looking at, and I'm grateful they brought that to me, but this is anything that's a character attack isn't true. They believe in themselves when they start integrating.
Leadership is lighter. Their marriage deepens. The passion re-arises in the marriage.
Yes.
Faith becomes alive again. There's a lot of things that happen. So
your purpose becomes clearer. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you've been listening to us and any of this hit, I want to invite you to stop asking the question of what's wrong with me, because you're not broken. You're not alone. I mean, if you are alone, you don't have to do life that way. We have a brotherhood for you.
Exactly.
It's what is God inviting me into now?
Yep.
Ask that question, because if you're feeling stuck and you're feeling challenged, you're feeling like something's empty, what is God inviting you into for a time of uncomfortableness and challenge so that you can become the man that you really want to be?
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. I agree. Of course, again, we're preaching to each other because we believe in this stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah. If a leader wanted to reach out and get a coaching session with you, Byron, how do they do that?
Yeah, they can reach out through the Crucible Project on the coaching page, and there's a connection there. In fact, that's the preferred way, because then it gets into the system and makes it very easy for us to connect with them. And we have several good coaches there. Read the bios, who fits your needs, and click and grab one of them.
Yeah. I think you've got something going on, like a 30-minute free session to kind of get to know you session.
Exactly.
And so if that would be helpful. All of our retreats are scattered across the United States and other countries. The dates are set for you at thecrucibleproject.org/men's retreats. I think if you go to thecrucibleproject.org, click the men's weekend button and go check it out and see if there's one near you. People fly. Like we had a guy from Germany hear our podcast and come to our California weekend not long ago. So people fly in from all over to come to those. But if you want to get a real deep dive in maturing and integrating your relationships relationally and with your emotions to that kind of thing that doesn't happen too much in church, if you want to take your leadership to the next level, well, come experience one of our transformative retreats. And who knows, Byron or I might actually be at that. Hey, it's been a great time visiting with you, Byron.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing
Always
this.
enjoy it.
Yeah. I'll be watching for the next episode of the Crucible Project podcast. And the next time that this Byron and I are on, rambling together. Yeah. If you haven't subscribe and follow us. God bless you.
For more information about our weekends, please go to thecrucibleproject.org. Or if you're ready to get started on your transformational journey right now, you can connect with one of our Crucible certified coaches for a free 30-minute session at thecrucibleproject.org/coaching. That's thecrucibleproject.org/coaching. If you like what you heard, connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Rate and review wherever you are listening, and don't forget to subscribe on your preferred podcast platform. Thank you for listening.